following on from our previous podcast where I've talked about the importance of third-party referrals such as equity release, financial advice and conveyancing solicitors too. One of the things we've not talked about is will writing and estate planning. So who better than Jayne Kelly, who is a mortgage advisor, a mortgage broker, but also is a will writer and estate planning specialist as well, to get onto the podcast, talk about will writing, estate planning, what it all is, and really the importance of having a third-party referral set up as a mortgage broker to a will writer or estate planning specialist. So welcome to the podcast, Jayne. How are you?
Hi, Craig. I'm good, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the Mortgage Broker broadcast. So I appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Good. So how are you? No, we appreciate you being on and talking about third-party referrals around estate planning, and we're going to talk about what is will writing, what is estate planning, and getting into that detail. We've covered quite a bit in terms of third-party referrals in the past, so equity release, IFAs, and that sort of stuff. But and solicitors, but we've never got into talking about estate planning and will writing and why that's important as a mortgage broker to have those third-party agreements in place. So before we get into the exciting times of estate planning and will writing as it is, do you want to just first of all explain who you are and your background?
Okay, yeah. So my name is Jayne Kelly, primarily mortgage and protection advisor, but before that, trained as a will writer. So realise the importance of them and really just trying to link that in with the mortgages because it's a good time to discuss it with people. And a lot of people, when they get that forever home and they move into that new property, do want to get things like that in place. It's a big responsibility to take on, of course. So that's when people sort of get their sensible head on and want to get that ticked off their list. So they do come hand in hand.
Okay, cool. So before you was obviously predominantly now you are a mortgage and protection advisor that does wills and also estate planning. So but you started out as a will writer, estate planner, is that right? Before you got into mortgages?
Yeah, that's right. So we've been doing it for a number of years now. So seen all sorts.
You're not going to say how many then, Jayne? You're not going to say how many because then it gives your age away and you can't do something like that.
Yeah. Giving nothing away.
Fine. So we won't ask how long you've been doing it, but you did do that before.
I did.
Okay. What was I'm just interested to know, and I'm not sure whether anybody else is, but what was sort of like training do you go through? What sort of qualifications do you have to go through as a will writer or an estate planner?
I am with the Society of Will Writers, so that involves a 5-day course at their headquarters where you are required to pass a qualification in will writing and estate planning. So they are very thorough and they offer me a lot of backup support because not all wills are straightforward. There are a lot of complicated scenarios where people have remarried and there's children from previous relationships, things like that, where we need to get trusts involved, and that's what the backup's there for, just to make sure that we are all doing it the right way, the best way, the most cost-effective way, and of course the legal backup as well. So they provide all that sort of support.
So a similar sort of way to a network or FCA from a mortgage broker point of view, it's a similar sort of thing.
Yeah. The same thing, yeah.
Right, okay, because obviously FCA makes sure from a mortgage point of view we're governed and our advice is regulated and making sure we're giving the right advice. They do that similar sort of thing from a estate planning point of view.
Yeah, so all of my wills, all of the work that I do is compliance checked with them as a double backup.
Right, okay. Fine. So in terms of when we talk about product-wise, what is it that you do in terms of actual products and services that you provide?
So we offer single wills, mirror wills for partners, which we've talked about. Also a sort of lesser known product, but also very, very valuable, lasting power of attorney, where we would put in place attorneys for normally parents, anyone who we are close enough to take care of if they're feeling vulnerable, just in case that they lose capacity. So not necessarily older people, often for younger people, just those in need of that extra support. So we offer those, and also funeral plans as well for those thinking ahead a little bit. And often when we speak to people about their wills, they'll say, oh, actually, my parents are looking for funeral plans, and then we can get a lot of sort of spin-off business that way as well.
Okay, good. And you did well there talking about products without dropping any jargon. So you did talk about lasting power of attorneys rather than LPAs and things like that, because every time I sort of seem to speak to mortgage brokers, financial advisors, they always drop in the bit of the jargon stuff. So well done. Well done. You didn't talk about any jargon on there, so you did give us clarity on that. So that's good to know. So they're the sort of products that you're offering services and advice on. In terms of from a client's point of view, and we'll talk about referrals and how that works and things like that in a moment. But when I'm sort of looking from a client's point of view, what does that process normally look like from their point of view?
So initially, when we do the fact find, these are sort of questions that we need to ask. Do they have a valid will in place? 9 times out of 10, they haven't. So that is something, there's a need there, and then we can help them with that. So obviously, their primary concern at that time is to get the mortgage, to get that house that they're after. That's their concern. So that isn't necessarily the best time to discuss putting their will in place. But once they have that house, they've moved in, they're all settled in, that's when they want to discuss it again. When things have settled down and they realise that they do need to get something put in place. So I think it's just one of those things. Very few people would go out and look for a will writer. So if you've had that initial connection, you've identified that need, it's on their radar, and they think, yeah, I do need to get that sorted. So when we come back along and just remind them, that's when they're generally ready to go with it. It's one of those things. Nobody wants to get it done. Nobody wants to sort it out. There's always something better to spend their money on. But actually, when it's done, you've got that peace of mind, and it's one thing off the list that you need to get done.
Yeah, exactly. I think like you say, it's always one of those things that it's on the to-do list of getting sorted out. But I think like the same we talk about like pensions and stuff like that. It's always like, oh, I need to get that sorted out. But then just time goes by so quickly, and then it never gets sorted out. Never. And like you said, when you've sort of taken out mortgage protection, all those sort of like things that you talk about from a mortgage broker point of view, you will have discussions around wills, and it's sort of parking it from what you're sort of saying from a mortgage advisor, mortgage broker point of view. You tend to get the referrals after they've moved in, then not necessarily while they're going through that process.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the right time. There's too much going on. Nobody wants to commit to putting that new address on the will before they've actually completed on that property either. And there's always things to pay out for during the move. And then shortly after as well, you want to get that room decorated and things like that. So I always find a few months after that, people are ready to have that discussion and face up to the fact that, yeah, we must get this done. And I think you do feel better for having it in place, and it's just something that will be just done, and then it's there for the hopefully rest of your life without needing to change it. We do things so that it lasts as long as possible. And then there's no need to think about it again. It's done. You've got that peace of mind.
Yeah, exactly. And I think because we talk about client retention and having conversations that we've talked in the past about, if you're a mortgage broker, you're signing a client up on a 2-year fixed, a 5-year fixed. If you just don't contact that person for the next 18 months or 4.5 years, they will forget who you are.
Yeah.
They will forget that. Whereas, and so a lot of brokers say to me, well, what do I say? Well, like you talk about having contact 6 months in, 3 months in, a month in kind of thing. What can I say? Well, wills is a great way. If you've talked about it in the fact find and know it's something that needs putting in place, what great way to then touch base with your client 3 months in, having a conversation about, this is something you said you were going to do, you wanted to do, you needed to get in place, you moved in now. Well, let's have the conversation. Let's get you referred to Jayne, and let's talk about the will and get the will put in place. And then it's just, it benefits everybody, because it gives the advisor, the broker, reason to call the client. And if they're well organized and they've got sort of tasks and forward diary plan and stuff like that, 3 months in, is then a quick call, quick email. How's everything going? We need to get your will sorted out. Don't even remember, we need to get your will sorted out. Let's get you in contact with Jayne. And that's sort of, it's a good sort of prompt then to think, do you know what? I do need to get it sorted out, because it's something that we put off right at the beginning. So I think from a process point of view, it's a great point that, like you say, in terms of bringing it into your process, like after they moved in, and picking it up then and getting the referrals, because everybody wins at that point. You've a mortgage broker, you've got that referral over to a will writing specialist, that you then benefit from, being like, obviously getting the lead across. We'll talk about, obviously there's a referral incentive there that the referrer benefits from, and the introducer benefits from. So everybody wins at that stage, kind of thing. So it's less fighting, I guess.
Yeah, for the client, you're still of use to them, you're still useful. And actually, often when they put it in place, there's sort of spin-off business to be had from that will, by speaking to the executors, the guardians, just making sure that they're actually aware of the responsibility that they're taking on. And quite often they'll say, oh, actually, this is something I need to do myself. Or I've had people come back and say, you did our will a few months ago. Now, auntie, uncle, parents, friends, they need theirs putting in place. So can you get in touch? So it's sort of, you almost turn them into a referrer as well. So there is lots of benefits, and you say it just extends that time of where you are relevant to them, because they do forget it is often a short relationship. But if you're doing things right and staying in touch, it just does extend that relationship, where they will think of you for, all sorts, and not just the things that I myself can do, because I've mentioned pensions to them. They know that we can do investments. If their parents want to do equity release, I've mentioned that to them, and they'll think, oh, Jayne said that, we'll give her a call.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's like you seem to forget, actually, like you said, it's like a ripple effect of, with the executors and things like that. If they're thinking, well, I haven't got my own will, I'm an executor on somebody else's will, but I've not got my own will sorted out, then it's just, well, it's something that I need to get sorted out, and just the referrals breed referrals from there. So that's another good point. In terms of your sort of interaction with the client, so I have a mortgage client, I'm referring to Jayne for their will. What does the client journey look like? So that my referrers and one of my clients, what does that process look for them? What does that journey look like from a client's point of view for somebody that I've referred to you?
Yeah, so I would just make contact however they would prefer, email or telephone. And because we're sort of nationwide, there is no need to see them in person. It can all be done over the telephone. Some people like Zoom, some people prefer email. So it really is sort of pain-free, and of the contact method that they would choose. So nothing stressful. There's no time pressure. Some people take a few days to come back with me with their answers. Some know them already. Some take a few months to think about it. It's just really in their own time, however they prefer. So, as I say, pain-free.
Sounds very pain-free anyway. So I think in terms, but you can do face-to-face if you need a book.
Absolutely, yeah. I find a lot of the older people like face-to-face, and that's fine, because it is a nicer way to deal with people, of course.
Fine. So face-to-face, Zoom, telephone, have a first appointment. How long does that first appointment normally last from a client?
Maybe 20 minutes, just explain the basics. and then always give people a chance to just have a think about, because some people will name sort of age inappropriate people for the roles. So just sort of giving them some pointers as to who might be best for the roles. Guardians of children, probably not appropriate, for example, for parents, the children's grandparents, to take that role as they age, and would they be the best people to bring up the kids? Obviously they want to have a relationship with them, but maybe somebody younger who will go and run in the park with them, things like that. Just giving people opportunity to think of things from a different angle, perhaps.
I think that's it. Like you said, there's so much individuality out there that you've got to think what's right for you and your family and your situation, your circumstances. So I think the one big thing about wills is that it's not a one shoe fits all, is it really? It's not something like that.
No, and more you find more complex family situations. So people remarrying, children from previous relationships. So there's a lot to think about with that, because obviously the primary concern there is sideways disinheritance. So there are things that you can put in place to avoid that, but people are not aware. And why would they be? It's not something that you think about or talk about. So surrounding those sort of circumstances is a little bit more to talk about.
I think, like I said, given that, like, the change in people's lives and how people's lives change over the years, it's also, like you say, with families and children and stepchildren, step families and things like that. There's so much to think about, and it's about, I'm guessing it's about getting it right first time, isn't it? You don't want to be sort of keep reviewing it from that. You can review it, and we'll talk about that, but it's important, like, making the decisions right at the start, because you're putting the will in place for a reason. It's important to get it right, because
you want it to last as long as possible, of course,
and you want it to do what it's meant to do. So if you've sort of got, like, you've got the greatest intentions with creating the will and making sure that's in place, it's then sort of making sure that it fits with your circumstances now. Absolutely. But it's not a quick decision, is it? Like I said, and I'm getting the sort of feeling from you that it's very much the client's given time and space and sort of welcome to invite the families into discussions and things like that. So there's a lot of transparency regarding the whole will, because that's the worst thing in it, really, where nobody's involved with it, and then the worst happens, and then the will needs to be to come into motion, and then it's ideal if there's no surprises, and everybody's involved with the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So I'm guessing it is all about time. Sorry.
Yeah, I've seen the other side of it, where you can actually change a will post death. And that's had to be done before, just because the circumstances weren't taken into account before the death. So nobody's fault, just maybe a lack of planning, and it is an expensive way around it. So it's a variation. Okay.
And so in terms of, like, I've had my Zoom or my Teams call, my phone call with you. You've given me, from what it sounds like you're giving me a bit of homework to go away with and think about what's important for me as an individual, and various parties involved with that. Once I've decided that, so I've gone away, done my homework, is it then another meeting with yourself then, Jayne, at that point, or what happens after that?
Yeah, a lot of the time people do have the answers, and they have given it some thought, and a lot of the time there is an obvious person who would take on those roles, and they don't have a lot of choice, so maybe the family isn't very big, and if they have all that information, I would just draft the will straight away and email them a draft for them to check over. Alternatively, if they do want to go away and have a think about it, I would just say that I would get back in touch at an arranged time. And they'd get back to me with the information then. And then, as I say, we would send a draft will for them to check. And then can all just be posted out when it's finalised. So very little for the client to do other than the decision making.
Okay, so basically you're taking out the whole hard work. And I'm guessing the harder work is the decision making, to be fair, is probably
Yeah,
not right in the
sometimes,
world.
yeah.
Yeah, given the complexities of people's lives, then that's going to be so you're taking away as much stress as you possibly can with regards
Of
to
course,
writing and
yeah.
preparing the will. It's just leaving them to make their decisions about their personal circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which then, because like I sort of see you can get off the. I'm guessing it's similar sort of to mortgage broking, really, with regards to going direct to the lender or sorting out your own sort of mortgage or sorting out your own protection and things like that as well. If you're not getting the advice, if you're not getting the recommendation, you're just leaving yourself a little bit open to having the wrong will in place or not thinking. I'm guessing there'd be that things that you prod and poke the client with about the will and their circumstances that they won't have thought of. So if they just do a off the shelf, here's my work, like mirror will, bosh, there you go, done, it's in place, and not really taking much time about it, there'd be things that they won't have thought about. And then it's at the worst time that these things raise their head, and then
Yeah.
the whole sort of things in turmoil.
Yeah, by the time you would realise it's too late to do anything about it. And it's like I always say, everything, you get what you pay for. So you're paying specialists to do something that you actually know very little about. So when I don't know anything about a certain subject, I would go and seek a specialist, and I'm happy to pay for that, because then I know at the end of the day what I'm paying for is what I wanted, and it will work how I want it to. Because if you get the wrong mortgage, there's an avenue for complaints and things there, but it's not as bad, if you like, if you've made a mistake in your will and then you've gone and actually that person who you wanted to benefit will not benefit. It would go to somebody perhaps that you've fallen out with, or just fallen into the wrong hands, any number of things. So I think it's important just to invest in some specialist advice and just be sure that actually when you go on, you're dead and buried, the things that you wanted to put in place are actually in place.
I think that's like I say, it's just peace of mind, isn't it? That it's fit and proper for what it needs to be in place for. Because like obviously, when the will's sort of put in motion, then you're not around to see the consequences of it. So, like say, if you're getting wrong advice on your mortgage or your pension or anything like that, you are around to see that and
be fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when you're talking about this situation, it's too late. Then that there's no fix for this. This is sort of what you've declared as your intentions when you're no longer around. So, and I know this is all sort of looking at worst case scenario, but these things happen.
It
These things do happen.
does. And that's why you get families arguing in courts. And a lot of time is taken up with those situations. They're a lot more common than what you would think.
And money, I'm guessing as well, like financially, like going to courts and things like that is a huge, absolute huge waste of money. Why? I'm sure that people like that's for me, like making sure my will's in place and for the right person and for my estate and things like that is so important. The last thing I would want is what a waste of money after when I'm no longer here. People fighting over the situation. You just wouldn't want that to be the case. Like, why would you actually want to? What's the point? If you want that, just don't leave a will and just let that be a bun fight at the buffet, shall we say? That's how it is. You know how much I love a buffet, Jayne. So that's the thing. That's the last thing I would want to be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think so. So I'm sort of getting, and then once I've signed it, sent it back to you, then that's in place. Storage wise, where I keep my own will. What happens if I lose it, destroy it? Is it kept?
Yep, there is only one legal valid copy of a will. So if that's destroyed, if it's lost, that's it, it's gone. So we do offer a storage solution, which has a cost per year. and then a small charge to release it at the end. But obviously, the executors need to be aware of where it's stored.
Right.
There's not just one national will archive. It doesn't work like that. So there could be a will in place, but if nobody knows where it is, then it's useless. Alternatively, most people like to just keep them at home with other important documents. Would always suggest in a fireproof bag. Obviously somewhere safe, and allow the executor's knowledge of where it is.
Right. Okay. Because I think that's the important thing as well, is if people knowing where it is, given the scenarios, because you're no longer here to point people in the right direction of where it is. So there's all the so obviously these aren't like, they're not exciting things we're going to talk about, but it is about giving peace of mind to people that they've got the right will in place. They think it's in the right hands, it's stored in the right place, the right way, making sure that then my estate is going to the right people at the right time, and all those sort of things. So that's important. So from a client point of view, I understand the importance of will writing, and from a mortgage broker's point of view, and we'll look at that now in terms of it. So we've talked about the referrals and when it is a good time to refer. Like, why is it important? Do you have any thoughts on why it's important from a mortgage broker to work with a will writer or a third-party estate planner? Just to what are the benefits? Why should a mortgage broker be working with somebody like yourself?
Because as any self-employed person, mortgage advisors, anybody working in the financial sector wants to hold on to these clients for life. They will need remortgages, they will potentially move house in the future, they will downsize. So we want to hang on to these clients for as long as possible. So by showing that we are useful, we have good people that we can recommend to, then it just shows our worth as an advisor. And another reason, like you say, to hang on to these clients. What we don't want is for somebody to go looking for a will, for example, a pension, and go to another company who will also have ties to mortgage brokers, will writers, and then they'll snap them up and they'll forget that relationship with you, and then they are now their clients for life. So we have to make sure that we're looking after them, primarily to cover all of their needs and do the best job that we can for them, obviously, but also to keep them and keep them coming back, because their circumstances change, everybody's lives change as we get older, our needs are different. So right now, first-time buyers won't be thinking about funeral plans, but in the future, when we've done a few remortgages, we've done their grandkids' mortgages, then they'll be starting to think about funeral plans. So the longer we can keep them, the better. So within the business, we cater for all of their needs that they would need. So we do the pensions, the investments, the equity release. So by covering as many things as possible, we're just ring fencing them so they have no business going looking for any other financial advice from any other company.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we talk about that quite a lot, and you've highlighted it there about there was a few things you talked about in terms of clients for life, holistic view, like the service and other things that we'll talk about. But I think, like I say, you're just leaving your client open to be to the rest of the world. If you've done your mortgage and thinking, oh, like it's fine, they're my clients for life now, but then they go and talk to somebody about the pension or the investment or the equity release or the will or the solicitors or anything like all these, you're leaving your clients open to be sort of attacked, for want of a better phrase or better word. You're leaving them to be poached by other people that can offer. So like you say, if you're not referring your will opportunities, and you've highlighted the fact that they need a will, you've talked about it in your fact find because you have to, because we talk about it from a fact finding FCA point of view. You have to identify whether they've got a will in place or not. That's every single mortgage broker does that. So if then you're highlighting the fact and talking about it, but then not offering a referral, then they're just going to leave them to go onto Google and then all of a sudden they've got a will, but then they're poaching them for, well, wait, so they're talking about the will and what they want to happen. They'll ask them about questions about the protection, like if they've got any like family benefit, family income benefits, that sort of thing. So then talk about those, and all of a sudden, exactly, and that's the thing. You then go, actually, I like, oh, you're paying £50 a month for this. And what I'll do is I'll get I've got somebody that I work with who does protection, and they normally can do but cheaper deals. So like, do you want me to get? And then even though that client loved you 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months, and they were nailed on coming back to you. And you will get clients that are nailed on coming back to you. I do understand that. But if you don't touch them, help them, support them when they're not a client, as in between the remortgage deals, then they're more likely to be sort of
poachable.
Poachable, absolutely. Yeah. So I get, like you say, it's about, you understand that. We understand that as from a business point of view, is that, and from me being like, I was a self-employed mortgage broker. I didn't want my clients to speak to anybody else within any sort of financial services, because I'll look after it. I was the go-to guy, right? And there's anything I would say to them is, anything that you think about in this sort of financial thing. So we've talked about will, we've talked about this, we've talked about that. Just speak to me. I've got somebody that I work with on every single aspect of your needs. So, and then that was the case. So then if they thought I need to they would ring me about the will. They would ring me about the protection. So I'd sort of protection out, obviously, but then I'd refer on the wills or refer on the financial advice, and it just keeps everything together. And the beauty of it is, as well, is that if you work with somebody that delivers the same service and has the same core values as you, and you are then able to work with those people because you're choosing to work with the people, they're not just somebody that's thrown at you, then you're more like them. Then they work with the client experience, the client journey is going to be the same as what if you were doing the will, or if you were writing the will, or doing the financial advice or whatever. So I think that's the important thing as well, is that it's the client's journey and the service that you've given and delivered and expected by the same people they're getting the same thing by the people that you're referring to from a third party point of view.
Yeah, and it's better for them because they don't want to think, oh, who did we use for the life insurance? Oh, we use them. Who do we go to for the mortgage? Oh, we use them. You just want everything in one place, a one-stop shop. Who am I speaking to you about this? Remortgages coming up. We need to speak to Jayne. Jayne will sort that out. We'll just ring Jayne. She'll know somebody. She'll sort it out. Easy. You just want to make their lives easier. We're all busy, and that's what people like. They don't want to be ringing 5 different places for 5 different things if one person can cover everything. Common sense.
Exactly. And then, like you say, you are the go-to guy, so you are the guy's go-to girl. I'm not being sort of any way sexist when I talk about go-to guy or go-to girl. So I think that's it. Because then you're the forefront of their mind, whatever happens. And I think that's the key to being a successful mortgage broker, is that anything to do with financial services, they know whenever they think about it, you're that picture in the front of their mind.
So if somebody asks them, oh, do you know anybody who does pensions? Jayne, speak to Jayne. She sorted mine. She did this. She did that. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we've covered it from a point of view of the importance of referring to somebody like yourself and working with somebody who's sort of a specialist on that. And we've talked about it from a client journey point of view and how a specialist like yourself does take away the pain as much as possible and the process from that point of view. Is there anything that we've sort of not talked about, Jayne, in terms of the importance of will writing referrals and estate planning referrals?
No, I think we've covered anything. Obviously, it generates a referral income for the advisors, so it's another revenue stream, which everybody likes. But I don't think that's the primary reason for wanting to do it. And I would agree that all the advisors that feed into me want to genuinely do a good job for their clients. But like everything, we all want to get paid at the end of the day, and there's a referral fee for that.
No, definitely. Like, what better than 3 months in to then get a little bit extra in terms of, like you say, it is about two things. It's about the service and the referral fee, but the service generally tends to be the most important, the overriding factor with it all. Absolutely. But it's just nice to get that little bit of kickback at that stage. And from a broker's point of view, you knowing that everything's sorted within your space and your bubble, and it just makes them sure they don't need to go elsewhere. So fantastic. But I think for me, just following on from our conversation, the importance of having a third party referral with regards to a will writer, estate planner, absolutely is key. Service point of view from my clients, client retention, absolutely. Client bang, protecting my protection sales as well, because obviously, I think the thing is as well, which we've not talked about, is that you'll talk about protection and trusts and things like that, and that can form part of the will. So you're less likely to, if I've taken the time to put a protection policy into my will, I'm less likely to cancel it and then have a clawback. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Everything's all tied in, and I think it does show a lot of commitment from your clients when they use you for various things. So yeah, less likely to get that clawback.
Fine. Excellent. So Jayne, if I'm sort of sitting now thinking, I don't work with a will writer, I don't work with an estate planner, and obviously you are a mortgage broker as well, so we understand that. But if I'm a mortgage broker, I know we are very much about relationships on trust, so I know you're not going to pinch the mortgage or pinch the protection or anything like that. That's not something that you would do. So if somebody wanted to talk to you about offering a referral service for wills, how do they get in touch with you?
Email is best. Give me a call and chat it through. But like I say, the best time for referral is once the mortgage is put in place. And we're not in the habit of pinching clients. It's just all about helping to build that relationship. So anybody's welcome to give me a call anytime to have a chat. Sometimes people just like to know a little bit more about them before they go. Discussing them with any confidence with a client, and that's absolutely fine. So yeah, pretty easy to refer.
We'll make sure when this podcast goes out, we'll make sure you're tagged in on and things like that. So people who have listened will have your contact details again through LinkedIn and that, so that obviously they can reach out to you that way. So Jayne, thank you so much for your time. This is the first time you've been on the Mortgage Broker broadcast. So thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone, because I know how much you love the sound of your own voice and love seeing yourself on camera as well, because obviously we are videoing this as well. So thanks very much. I know how much you were looking forward to today and this recording. So I do really appreciate it. Hope it wasn't too bad, was it?
No, it wasn't. You were very kind.
Yeah, you did pause then, you did hesitate then, so I'll just take that as it was fine. But Jayne, thanks so much for taking the time out. Thanks for stepping out your comfort zone, which is, I'm all about that anyway, so you know what I'm like with that. So
but thank you for having me on. A pleasure.
Thanks very much.